The Odin is Olight's first purpose-built long gun flashlight. It's capable of 2,000 lumens, uses a scout mount, and has a detachable and lockable pressure switch. There's been a lot of reviews out on the Odin, many of which were sponsored by Olight directly. I'm going to try and be different here. This light was sent to me via Skybin, but I'm going to remain honest and true like I do in all my reviews. So thanks for watching, and let's get to it. I don't think this video would be complete without showing some pew-pews, which means it'll probably get demonetized here on YouTube. So if you'd like to support me, go to my Instagram and Facebook page and give those a like and follow. And don't forget to make sure you're subscribed here on YouTube with that bell icon turned on so you won't miss future reviews too. Here is the packaging that the Olight Odin comes in, and it's a really nice package as usual. I did find it kind of interesting. This is a sticker here instead of actually being printed onto the box. Even though they printed the text, I guess that allows them to come up with other colors really easily. On the back, you're full of stats, and you've got this nice magnetic closure here. You get a quick start guide, which is pretty common with Olight, and you get a lot of extra accessories here, and I'll quickly go through them. You get an extra couple zip ties to help secure the cable and pressure switch mount that the light comes with. You get a bag with a small Allen key and a couple extra screws. You get the MCC charger. This is the version 3 with the red base here, capable of up to 2 amps. You get the mount here for the scout part of the light that is lockable, and I'll talk more about this later. You get a manual, and then you get the new pressure switch that's designed to fit with this light. The Odin also comes pre-installed with this 21700 sized 5000 milliamp hour Olight proprietary battery. The Odin here is made from aluminum and is hard anodized in a fairly glossy black finish. Starting at the tail cap here, you can see it's the same that was on the Olight M2R Pro. Got these larger knobs and big steel button there in the center. What's a little bit different is this ledge here. What that ledge does is allows the pressure switch to come in here and connect, and then this pressure switch, which I'll talk about more in a minute here, has a push and pull, and what that does is it locks on with some ball bearings that are in the edges of the pressure switch. You've got some teardrop shapes here milled for style and a little bit of grip. On the inside, you've got your single pressure mounted point, and this is spring loaded here, independent of the button. On the inside of the body, you can see those threads are unanodized and square cut. They're pretty nice and they are beefy. This is one of the only Olights in recent memory where the battery installs with the positive end towards the head of the light. The body tube here is milled straight and there's no knurling on it. And I don't think that's an issue since this is designed to mount to a weapon and not be handheld. You've got this Surefire Scout mount here. These screws, 2 screws hold it onto the light body itself. They are 1.5 millimeter screws. Then on the top of the mount here, you've got threaded holes if you want to thread onto a different style mount. There are several available, and I may do that myself here later on down the road. The head here is milled as a separate piece, and you can see there's a seam there, but it is glued so you can't unscrew it. You've got a little bit of a ring here for a little extra thermal mass for heat dissipation, and that same milling mark is continued throughout. At the front here, you can see the black bezel. I really like this style of this. It's kind of saw blade shaped. It's a little bit sharp on the edges, but not too bad. You've got a piece of plastic in front of the optic here, and it is that TIR optic. And there's a couple O-rings in there. This unscrews fairly easily. So if you wanted to get in and swap that LED or something like that, you probably could without too much issue. This light uses the Scout mounting system, which Surefire pioneered with their Scout series of light. It provides these 2 posts that are about 7.5 millimeters off the body of the light. And then it's an extra piece that is then screwed in with 2 small hex screws, 1.5 millimeter in diameter. Olight developed their own mount here for this, and it's a quick attach system, and it mounts 4 ways. So let's just pretend this is a Picatinny rail here. How this mount attaches to your Picatinny rail is with 2 2.5 millimeter diameter hex screws, and you back these off a little bit, this expands, and then you can slip it on top of your rail, tighten these down, and you're good to go. The threads do have some blue Loctite pre-installed, but you may want to add some of your own. So once this is mounted, and it can mount forward or backward, and you've got options to mount the light on the bottom or the side. So it's really a 4-way mount. Once you've got that installed, you just slip it onto the light, and you're in business. Don't like it, you want to move it, slip it around, flip it, put it in, boom, you're good to go. You can mount up here or like that. It's a very versatile mount, and yes, this will fit pistols if you really wanted to. Once you're mounted like this, you can just rotate that and it's locked on. There is just a little bit of play, but it's really minimal. It's more side to side than forward and back. And if you don't like that, you do have the option with the threaded holes here of doing a rigid mount with something like an Arisaka Defense. And I may do that just to mount a little bit closer to my handrail. The pressure switch is an evolution of what we saw on the M2R and Warrior X and Warrior Pro X. It is a plastic bendable rubber here, and it just slips over the top of your rail. And then you've got some holes that you can zip tie that to secure it even more. It's easy to use, one setting here, but the real difference is this locking on pressure switch. And this part's a little bit controversial. You do have these 4 detent balls in here, and once it's on and pushed forward, this isn't going anywhere reasonably, but it is easy to move this ring and then it comes off easily so you can charge. I think it's a good design, but needs probably a little bit of refinement. In the Olight Facebook group, there were a couple people that reported the lock coming loose during extreme combat situations, so your luck may vary. I would recommend disconnecting the pressure switch if you are going to store your weapon in a bag for transport, just so it doesn't come on and melt anything. One thing you can do is lock your pressure switch here and then still attach it, but it won't go on and doesn't make connection to turn the light on, so it won't actually melt anything. I measured the overall length at 136.6 millimeters. Maximum diameter on the light, not including the mount, was 29 millimeters. Minimum diameter was 24.16. Weight with the battery was 174.1 grams, and when you added the pressure switch, the whole combination weighed 222.3 grams. A little bit of comparison here. I brought my M2R Pro because the lights are very similar in overall diameter and length, as you can see here. Olight has recently gotten into the nasty habit of not defining the LED they're using on some lights, and the Odin is one of those. With the TIR optic in place, you can't see the LED either, but from looking at it, taking it apart a little bit, my guess is it's a Cree XHP 35.2 LED that's been de-domed. Olight's used those in the past. It's possible. It also could be something else. What I can tell you for sure is that it's a fairly neutral white tint at turbo setting, and at the lower modes it's a little bit warm. The beam is almost all throw with a focus in the center. It's a great beam for its purpose here. There's just very little spill and just a few artifacts at closer ranges. For the purpose this was designed for, I think it's a great choice, and there's nothing I'd change on the beam itself. Here's my night shots for the Olight Odin, and as you can see, the LED here is a spot beam. The LED is undefined here, and I'm not quite sure what it is, but this is the lower setting, and you can see here it fills my backyard. That first fence is about 45 feet, and the second fence is right at least 100 feet, 120 or so. So no problems there, and it even goes out to the trees a little bit further. If I go to full turbo, well, yeah, you can see the trees, no problem. And you can see it's a fairly tight beam and fairly neutral white, almost a little bit white. And this is a full 2000 lumens. It'll keep this for about 2 minutes before stepping down, and it's getting pretty warm to hold here. But normally when this is mounted on a weapon light, that's not a huge issue. Just a little bit of comparison. Here's an Olight M2R Pro. Similar sized light physically, different LED here, but you can see in the lower setting reaches about the same, and if I go out to full turbo, you can see it's a similar beam profile. While the M2R Pro can be designed and mounted on a weapon light, it's not its primary purpose. So here is the Olight M2R Pro and the Olight Odin. Both pretty similar beams and pretty similar, except I think the Odin here has a better tint, more neutral white. Overall, I quite like it. The Odin here produces up to 2000 lumens on turbo, and that lasts 2 minutes before it steps down to 52% relative output. I saw a maximum heat at 60°C at 2 minutes and 40 seconds of runtime. Normally, I'd say that's too hot to hold, but since the sight's designed to be mounted near the muzzle end of a hot firearm, it's not really an issue. We saw more step down at the 12-minute mark, and it ran at a fading 42% output for 2 hours. At the end, we saw one more step down before stopping the light at 3 hours of runtime. I would have wished to see turbo last a little bit longer here, but I suspect that it's thermally regulated. As we can see, temps heat up again after cooling off initially. Overall runtime is the best out of the 1-inch weapon lights that I've tested. The UI here is really simple. The light itself, it's got that rear button that I showed you earlier, and a half press gives you the low mode, and full press gives you full turbo, 2000 lumens. If you leave that button pushed in like I had here, the light is in momentary. If you full press, like a quick press, the light will lock on. You can also lock on in momentary if you're quick. With the pressure switch attached, it's even easier. You've got one button and it's always on fast. You can long press like I've been doing here and get momentary, or you can do a quick press on and it stays on. There is no strobe mode on this light, and it is IPX8 water rated. The Odin uses that proprietary 21700 sized 5000 milliamp hour battery, which is required for this light. It's one of the only Olights in recent memory that has the positive terminal facing forward. Proprietary batteries are one of the things I dislike the most, but here I feel like it's almost okay. This is probably something you won't be swapping a lot of batteries out on, and if you want extra power, more than 3 hours of runtime, just bring a spare battery. Olight's MCC3 charging system here is a winner because it's super easy to connect, and you can connect it and charge it via power bank or AC outlet attached to your weapon still. Just like the pressure switch here, you just tap it on and it's good to go. Orb turns red when charging and green when charged. When I was charging, I saw speeds up to 1.8 amps, and the total charge time here was 2 hours, 7 minutes, which is pretty quick. So for me, the pros are that use of that scout mount, I think, was a really smart idea by Olight. This means you've got tons of options to fit your application in the aftermarket, and nothing new has to be developed. It's already out there and affordable. And I like that this is a complete kit light. Everything you need is good to go, including the mount and pressure switch. Nothing, you don't have to buy anything extra. And it's great, it's neutral white. The cons for me are it's only compatible with 21700 batteries. CR123s are not an option if you're out in the field and need some more light after several hours, so pack a spare battery. Some possible durability issues with that locking pressure switch mount system have been reported on the forums, so test this light on your own. Make sure it's great for your application before putting your life on it. And I don't like that the LED isn't specified here, but I do like that it's neutral white. For me, this is going to be the light that I plan to leave on my 16-inch build. The way I have it configured now is easy enough to remove if I want to move to a different light, or use it handheld if I wanted to, but I feel pretty confident in its ability to perform and leave it. I may end up picking an offset Arasaka mount to get it a little bit closer to the handguard with my slim handguard design. Overall, I think this is a good light for most citizens and hunters. Before I would trust it with my life in a police or military application, I'd want to do more durability testing. With the current pandemic and ammo shortages, I didn't put a ton of rounds through it, but the rounds I did put through it worked great. So I can recommend this light, but just be sure to do some testing to make sure it'll work for your application. If you've got any questions, I'd love to hear what they are in the comments below, or just give me a shout out if you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll catch you on the next review.